Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave. This week's a little bit different because, as you can see, Pastor Sky is not here. At the time of recording, he's off at a church retreat, and it's good to see him more involved, with his local church, right? I know he hasn't been doing that for a long time, so it's a big change, and it's a very welcome change. But today is also quite unique because we're recording, all the way from like the latest time zone that we have here in the US and the earliest time zone. So, it's different from our normal recording time, but we're really glad to have, all of AP kind of represented in a little, at least to some degree like this too. So today's topic is kind of interesting. I'm very keen on hearing how each person will kind of take the ball and spin it because I think even the way that we think about this topic is quite different. But even when I think about everyone listening, this is, I think people listen to the MSC 117.8 for different reasons, right? Some people do it to get informed, some people do it to get entertained. Some people want to hear other people speak. And then there's people who want to be like involved in the conversation too, right? They want to know what's going on so they know what they're doing and stuff like that. And so I think today's topic for me is kind of something that everyone should be involved with, like not in terms of like the doing itself, like of course they should be involved in the doing itself too, but in terms of the conversation, right? Because this is something that we do need feedback from each person. And so kind of the big general topic for today is on internet ministry, right? And like this new sort of direction, even though it's not really a new direction, this more new official direction that something gave exactly 2 weeks ago during a Friday, night prayer meeting in Korea, in which we got to listen to as well. And so, really, of the many things that was said in that time, he really emphasized this shift to doing internet ministry, kind of in the same way that he took action in the first half of Providence when he was really starting out, like in meeting with thousands of people at the time. And so he was really encouraging us to do that, to do the same thing, but in our own ways and fitting of the tools that we have in the time period. Because when he was starting, the internet wasn't as established, and it wasn't something that he could use in the same way that we can, right? So he's kind of telling us to, okay, look from your perspective what you can do, and as the hands and feet of this history, what can you do that's like this with the same heart but in the new way, right? So there was that, and I think this is all kind of in the same like time frame as like the things in Korea with the trial and the rallies that the church members have been showing over there. And so we wanted to get your guys' impressions overall and your first impressions so far, like over these last few weeks, thinking about those things. Anyone can feel free to lead us off.
Yeah, sure. I'll kick us off. So it was really great hearing the direction from the Friday night service where I was really emphasizing about doing online ministry. I think that's something that a lot of members I've spoken to on an informal basis have been really passionate about or really interested in how can we do online ministry, what different kind of styles are there. So it was really cool to see that Sunsim has given us the official go-ahead, the green light to do internet ministry. And I think as far as first impressions, I was kind of shocked a little bit because Sunsim said like, oh, everybody make your own channel. Because I think in the past, or things that I've heard or more accustomed to, is usually there's like a team very specific, like focus on a very specific style of content. So that was pretty interesting. So I'm curious to get into that as we discuss. But yeah, that's kind of my first impressions.
Sure. Sounds good. Before we like get into someone else too, even though I do want to hear, what kind of informal conversations like have you had? Is it just with like members in your own church, or like with people online with other guys, or what was
Yeah,
it?
it's been with people at my church, people from various churches. It's been different departments, campus, career, JS, Bless Family. So really just a lot of different inputs from everybody. Yeah.
But was it more just generally talking about it, or was there something that happened as a result of this conversation? Was it like to plan something or just kind of general conversation?
Well, usually something gets started, but it usually kind of fizzles out or doesn't get enough traction or momentum behind it. The most common thing I've seen is like Instagram pages. So like there's at least a dozen different Instagram pages I've seen people create, and they're all kind of niche different things. Like some are arts based, some are sports based, some are very ministry focused. So like specifically on the word. Some are like curated short form messages or proverbs. So a lot of different things. Yeah, some are even like just pictures, like photo proverbs. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So yeah, a lot of different styles.
Sounds good. I like what you said. I think it is true. A lot of times things get started, but many things fizzle out, right? But I saw Minister Randolph kind of laughing when you mentioned Instagram pages. Do you have anything on that, and like just on like the overall question too, which is on like your first impressions and your thoughts?
Yeah, but I'm laughing because I think there's a lot of Instagram like accounts of like like Providence account like Proverbs and pictures. Like I think I followed like maybe like 10 of them in my own account. But I think I mean going back to it to like with the recent like direction that we have, I think it's always been there. That's I'm kind of like shocked and moved once again because Sansonim is really emphasizing about internet ministry. Because I remember the first time we did internet ministry, that Sanson really pushed on was in back in 2012. So that's when like my head leader back then, we were SS. He like encouraged us to do internet ministry by just messaging our friends or people from like Facebook. And then actually it worked because there's people who learn and also who pass and who got evangelized through that. And I think what Cameron said, like, it started, but towards the process it just kind of die out or it's not like consistent. And so hearing back it again though, it's like it really makes me think in a different perspective. Okay, what should I do now differently? Like what would be like the new direction? Because in my church, we'd never really had a discussion or like plan out yet of how we should proceed this direction. But one of the member, mentioned kind of shared that, you know what, like my time for street evangelism is done. Yeah. I think it's time for me to just like evangelize through internet ministry. Because it does takes a lot of time, going out to the campus, talking to people. And some people in street evangelism is not really their thing. So I think it really kind of make it a like a big opportunity for those people who are not confident talking to people, like approaching them, but using their own talent and their ability, such as the internet. I think it really give a lot of opportunity to be creative.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, was there anything to that? Sorry. um, yeah, some of what you guys both mentioned, I think is quite common to many churches, if not all. So I'm actually interested in like hearing if there are any churches, and I think one of the things that came about from this is we do have a big plus. Everyone here, like right now, who are meeting for the Man Cave, we're from the U.S., but because we're like, and everyone on the MSC 107.8 is part of the English-speaking nations, right? So we have a big plus too that we can kind of like branch out even just from our own country, because we sometimes like America is so big that our churches are spread like kind of thin, but some places it's like really small, and so there's like a lack of manpower, so there's like all of these kind of variables when we just try to boil it down like country by country. But I think we have a big plus because we have a much larger base that we can actually tap into and stuff too. So I am curious to see, like, from those listening, if internet ministry has been something that you're pursuing, like either individually or at your church, and whether something has been like consistent, right? And whether something that you've been able to do, like as Randolph just mentioned, like something you even gave the direction as far back as 2012, but in the last 9 years since 9, 10 years since then, like what churches have been like really doing this, right? Or what individuals have been, and what can we kind of grow and take on from that. Because I think the big thing that I think both from what Cameron and what Randolph pointed out to me is that the lack of consistency. Because I think people have many ideas. Like each of us probably have ideas too, which I kind of want to get into. But part of today's topic that came up that I intend to actually discuss with Pastor Sky too is like even for this channel, when I first started doing the 2G talk segments that I do weekly for him, it's been almost 2 years actually. So I'll get into that too. But yeah, like when I first talked to him about it and like his channel, I don't know if things have changed for you, Pastor Sky, but like he mentioned that he wanted to get to a place where he's like situated, and so that he can have kind of like an actual studio, and like most of the time like his segments are like just him speaking, but he wanted to have like a camera and like a thing that he can show like for each of his recordings too. So I know that even from back then, he had designs for the future for how he can expand on these things. So I'm kind of curious, like what he thought on that too. But even for myself too, I think the two things that I noted was this even the segment that I did for Pastor Sky, that was something that initially wasn't even supposed to be just internal for Providence. Like I had the idea for like that kind of segment even before talking to Pastor Sky, and I was thinking of like making just an open sort of podcast. But then through working with the MSC 117.8, I got to do it for within internal for Providence. And the biggest thing that I'm actually really grateful to Pastor Sky for is that I've been able to do it consistently for 2 years. Because like we mentioned, it's a lot of people have these ideas, but the consistency isn't there. And so even for me, like because I've worked with P Sky for a couple of years now, and like to those who are may or may not have worked with him before, he's very I don't know what the best word is. He's very like very clear cut when it comes to like keeping the time and doing things consistently. Like even with his man cave recording, right? Even though he's not here, he was like insistent that like, oh, we have to do it for this week, right? To match the timing and stuff like that. So because I work with someone like him, even if this was a complete optional thing that I was just doing for myself, like recording something every now and then, I don't think I would have been as consistent. So at first, like when I was doing it, there were a couple of times I almost forgot to do it, but then he would remind me in a very like, hey, like he didn't really say all these words, but it was like implied in the short things that he would say to remind me that this is something that I signed on to do, and that he's depending on me for it, and stuff like that. So because of that, like really, like it's almost at 2 years. And so for me, the reason why I bring that up is because the plan for this idea was always something different. When I first heard this topic come from like the Friday prayer night meeting, that and there were a couple other ideas that I had that I was like, huh, maybe it's time to take it on to the next level, right? Because I was always like, oh, well, like this has been something I've been able to do, so maybe let's take it to the next level. And I'm sure everyone has ideas like that too. But yeah, so I was curious on Pastor Sky's thing, but one of the things for me was I spoke to some other members about this earlier this week, and they were all kind of wondering like, what is it that I can do for this, right? And so the first thing that came to mind for me is like, yes, like people want to do certain things, but then when I really think about it, there's actually things within everyone's like periphery that they are either good at or capable doing or already doing that they could use for this thing too, right? Like instead of like maybe doing something that they're like not good at or not interested in and trying to force themselves to do it, like something that you're already doing. So I'm kind of curious, like if something comes to mind for each of you guys, where like, okay, like how can I leverage internet ministry according to my uniqueness, or what's something that I can do?
Yeah, great question. I think that's really where you got to start. Like, I mean, with the direction, everybody make your own channel. I mean, everybody should find something that it's not like you're learning something completely new. You should already have like some level of background in it or interest in it, passion. So I was thinking for like us guys here in Georgia, like we could do a soccer page or something like that, or sports, outdoors stuff. So like I know whenever we get together, just film a couple of different things, like just make it something fun, and then just maybe tailor in like a couple of like Sunson's philosophies about playing soccer. So things kind of like that, because we're all athletic here. So I think that's something that we're good at and could definitely get our start in.
What about you, Mason, over there? Because I know you had some questions even regarding like what we would talk about today before.
The only other thing that I was thinking about in regards to that, starting an individual page, is actually something that was in my mind at the beginning of last month, so like a month ago. Because I started to study to get my personal trainer certification, and there was another member in LA that mentioned it would be advantageous to start a social media page or a few social media pages on different platforms so that I could advertise myself and the services that I would provide. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I would tailor into the program that I would provide is also mentality coaching. It's actually part of the curriculum for a personal trainer to have. Like, you need to know how to communicate. You need to know how to help people change their mindset of all revolving around exercise and adherence to consistency in exercise. So that would be how I would connect the word that we have been given from Sansinim and from Jesus into the work that I do and into these social media platforms that I do, that I am thinking about creating.
Nice.
So it would be about exercise and pretty much that kind of stuff. But with exercise also is mentality. You can't have one without the other. It's not like I just woke up one day and it's like, yeah, I'm going to exercise consistently. Like, I worked up to it. I had an idea, I made a plan, and I just got more consistent with it. So it's about just building the mentality and eventually, like Sansinim said, connecting those people that are really liking it to the word in whatever way. Like, hey, you really like the things that I talk about, you really like working out, blah blah blah, but have you ever thought about spirituality, or how spirituality and mentality are so important when it comes to living a balanced life, and then connect them to the word like that.
Dude, that's dope. I like that.
Sounds good. Well, so some of the things that I think we brought up, they're kind of like very individual things that we could do too. I was wondering, like, if like when we think about internet ministry as an approach, like let's say we can even think about the like for us here in AP, like, are there things that you guys feel like we should do as a country, or like as like more as group efforts than like individual efforts? Because I know Tim mentioned like in the past that like and I think Cameron mentioned it too, that there were like official channels that we did things, and then like people outside of the official channel like didn't do certain things. And there's like a power that comes from working together too. So I'm kind of trying to see how we can kind of navigate the line between some of these things, and what we can do together.
Yeah, I think it comes down to kind of defining the best structure. Like, if you looked at an organization, every big Fortune 500 company has a social media department, marketing department. They've had to figure out how to adopt the new internet culture that is so predominant since like 2008. So whatever kind of organizational structures we could adopt and integrate into Providence, I think that would be really helpful. So you need to have like various teams, probably people dedicated to various platforms. Really try to streamline what kind of messaging we're doing, or give suggestions like, here's your guideline on how to post content. Then you could have multiple people, either we could all post that same channel, or everybody can make their own channel, but they have guidelines on what kind of content would be good. So I did kind of hear that alluded to, like Korea would have some resources that they would disperse. I think the like small goal that they had was everybody tried to share with 3 people. I think I heard that in there. So I think something like that would be very good to help unify, get everybody focused and aligned on, I guess, a specific style, and then everybody can kind of adapt it to like your own personality and your own talents and stuff. That's my idea. Was
Sounds good. That's some of the stuff that's kind of like really large scale. I mean, I definitely agree with that too, but I'm trying to see like if you guys even think it's possible, like for us here too. I see Mr. Aaron over there, and I know someone has also run like not just in the U.S. but in Japan and overseas for a long time too. I don't know if you had any sort of thoughts on any of the things we talked about, but this in particular too, or what you think that maybe Western nations can adopt, or that other countries have been doing, or like what we can do that's unique to us that we can leverage, and that could be our strength.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about some of the things I saw in Japan and what I thought was really interesting or what could work. I mean, regardless of where you are. I got to fill in why I just popped up out of nowhere about like 7 minutes ago. I was quietly trying to build this chair that I'm sitting in. And you didn't see, I hope you didn't see me in the screen. I was on the floor trying to figure it out. Finally got I think I lost a screw, unfortunately. So there are 3 screws I'm sitting on instead of 4.
If he suddenly disappears and we don't see him, we know why. But
yeah, so that's why I popped up out of nowhere. I had finished what I could of this chair. But yeah, when it comes to internet ministry, I mean, I guess there are a few ways to kind of define internet ministry. You can think of it as like events that you hold online, like through Zoom or whatever kind of video conferencing platform. Or you can also think of it as like through social media, like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. So I guess what I've seen and experienced most is more the former, like actual online events, which were really, especially during COVID, because I think half of the time I was in Japan was when COVID was, going around and people weren't going out, and there's a limit to what people could actually do in person. And so during that time, there were a lot of online events. I actually helped plan and conduct a few online events when I was over there, like to bring in people from different countries and get to know each other, share about Japanese culture or culture of other countries, let people talk and kind of share about their hometowns and kind of learn about one another and connect in that way. So we organized events like that. But one thing that I saw in that sort of and the events that I was a part of, and even that I was called to participate in, is it was very easy for church members from different areas to all link up and use their strengths together. There was one event that I was actually asked to be a speaker for, and it was about the culture shock that I had coming to Japan. And so, I mean, I was speaking Japanese, obviously. Well, I can't say obviously, but I was speaking Japanese as the speaker for the event. And it was neat because it was in like the northern region of Japan, which was like the Tohoku region. That's where that big earthquake happened in, oh gosh, was it 2011? Can't remember. But it was like pretty far from where I was living at the time. I think it was like over 2 hours from where I was. But because it was online, they're like, hey, we want you to be a part of this event. We think you'd be a great speaker. And I was like, okay, sure. So we had a few meetings, I prepared content, and then we actually had the event. And it was great because everyone could join from where they were. It was very easy for me in a completely different region to get to know the church members there, to make stories with them. We prayed together. The event itself went so well. It was incredibly fun. People who were online were engaged, and it really opened my eyes to the value of like online events and online ministry. And I think in a sense, COVID, of course, was not a good thing. But there are a lot of things we were able to learn and realize through those experiences. And I think the value of that online ministry is one of those things. But yeah, it was really great to be a part of that. And I think even here in the US, if we were to make events, we have a few time zones, but if we choose a good time and a good day, it's possible for people in Hawaii to join an event hosted by members in California, or for people in Texas to join an event that New York is putting on, and through that we can connect with other members, we can help out in their evangelism as well. And it's realistic too. Like if someone has a specific niche or an area that they know very well, like let's say physical therapy or something along those lines, someone knows a lot about that, and there are newcomers that you are looking for that have interest in physical health and in becoming physical therapists or things like that, you can make an event and have a member from like a different region who knows all about that come and be a speaker. And they can share their experiences in the field. They can share their realizations. They can connect it to faith. They can do it however they're inspired to do so, and then open up for time of discussion and things like that. And that like opens up so many opportunities, just because that person with that specialty joined from wherever they were. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. But that was one thing in Japan that I saw that I was very moved by and saw a lot of benefit in.
That's cool.
Sounds good. How did who approached you like for that event to speak? Like, was it someone who knew you very well, or like because the event wasn't planned by the church you were at, right? So it was like planned by a different church, and then they somehow managed to recruit you. Like, how did that process?
I don't know exactly how they found me. I mean, I was decently known. I won't say well known, but decently known in Japan as that one American guy who spoke fluent Japanese and like was at church. And like there were some like things that I did at the church I was at the time, like made a music video for an original song, things like that. And that kind of stuff goes around. So people knew of me in different areas. And so whenever an international event was put on or things like that, the church I went to was known for having international events and things like that. So I'm assuming that the leader or the person who was helping organize the event in the other region reached out to someone in my church, and then were told about me, and then they contacted me. I don't remember the details, but I think that's kind of how it went.
Sounds good. Well, so I'll toss this to Minister Randall. So part of the reason why I asked that question is because when I think about like even for us here in AP, one of the things that came up in my conversation with other members, like it would be good to have some centralized efforts too. Like I know Mr. Cameron mentioned like having the shared resources that we can share. But one of the other things that came to mind was kind of like with what happened with the event for area situation. Like we need to know what is even available, right? So like if we have someone like, hey, I'm like working on this, but is there someone in AP like who's doing this kind of stuff, or like who can do X and Y? Like one of the things that one of the guys from Hawaii mentioned was like, oh, some people are like they might be really good at like video editing and like producing stuff, but they don't want to be the one in front of the camera, or they don't want to be the one in front of people, right? So like, and some people, and there's a lot of people like this who are like they're really good at speaking, but they're really terrible at the the video editing part, or like the recording part and the producing part, right? So we need like a mix of different things. So I have definitely thought about that too. That it would be really good to have a kind of central effort that at least is aware of all the different internet ministry efforts like going on, so that we can kind of like cross collaborate and kind of help and assist each other too. But one of the things that came to mind is like, what do you think you would need, or your church or your location would need from like a larger group effort? So I'm kind of tossing it to Minister Randolph because he's over in Hawaii, and like in the grand scale of like all of AP, it is like water locked, ocean locked on all sides. It's quite far from everyone. So what would help for like you and for like Hawaii for like internet ministry? What do you think you need?
Wow, that's a really great question. I wasn't really prepared. I think if I think about in a smaller scale, like within my like the church itself, like one thing about Hawaii that's very I mean for us it's a blessing is like the nature itself in Hawaii is something that we can really promote, especially for people who are coming to Hawaii like for school and college. So we do have like a club in the campus, and then mainly it was focused more on like hiking. And I remember I think for the like past 2 years we have like clubs, and like we promote it through like Facebook, and then we have at least like 2 times in a month we would have hiking, and to the point like there's so many people are like, chatting us and messaging us that they wanna come to the hike, and to the point like it got really overwhelmed because like we don't, they need to be picked up, and it's just there's so many people to handle, and like the manpower at that time was like, okay, like we can't really do everything with this amount of people, So I think like for us, like I said, in Hawaii, it's such a small scale. I think like really it's just the manpower itself. And if I look at in a bigger picture, like for AP2, I feel like because we're so far apart, and like what Eddie said, it's more like, we should like focus on like centralizing or like gathering our talents and our creative. So I think for AP itself, if AP can really invest on content creator, influencer, I think if we can really, for example, like right now, with Pastor Sky's page, like there's a lot of content. So I think if AP can do that also too, like for America, I think that will be really great. But I don't know if you can just like gather the ideas and like talk to APHQ. Hey, we want to invest, and we want to be invest on doing this, for the future, like something small. Because I think one thing that really helped also too, I think advertising, because I've been watching K-drama Netflix. I'm not too sure if you watch a Celebrity. It's a K-drama Celebrity, so it's mainly focusing on like influencer, and how they become influent, how they become famous, and what you do, like the connection, and like how like internet is so powerful. So I mean, it's showing the bad side of of like internet, but like I'm like thinking of, okay, what is the good side of this, like we can do. So and I think one of the thing that it really stuck to me is like how they advertise it, and how like they create drama to like really create clouds. So I was like, yeah, I think if we have like if AP can invest on content creator, and I think everyone in AP like they have ideas and talent, and if we can create like a page where people can like physical therapists or the word or anything or like arts, and if people can just access on that one page, and if AP people can also promote it like on Instagram, or like I think especially TikTok. I think TikTok right now is such a big thing, like a lot of company. Sorry, I'm Gen Z. I'm kind of Gen Z.
Yeah, even though he's older than I am, but anyway.
Yeah, so I think that's like the great thing about it too. If for example, if people doesn't want to be part of it, but if they can advertise it like the page, I think that would really create a lot of attention. So that's one thing, if AP can invest on content creator, I mean, yeah, like Providence influencer.
So what would that exactly mean? So I guess the advertising thing would be like sharing the things that people have created. So what would like
Sharing
investing
or
in
Mhm.
what would investing in content creators be like? Like just monetarily, or like officially like supporting people, or
In a way, like sharing it, because I know like some people also like on TikTok they make reviews also too. They make reviews about this person content creator, like that. So and then it just gathers a lot of people like clicking on it. So that's like one way we can think of. But I do feel like sharing it like on Facebook, on Instagram, and just talking positive about it too. I think that's really a great thing to do. If uh for people who just wanna share it. So but yeah, I mean it's a really broad like picture about it to Eddie, I would say. Like I think right now, but I think starting something small and just continually doing it and keep on trying. I think just like how you experience being in doing the G Talk. It's been 2 years, and even with Pastor Sky's page. So in the process it started with one idea, but there's like so many ideas now. Like so I think if AB can really do that, I think that'll be, if they can invest in that, that'll be good.
sounds good. I mean, look, because like, my main thing was like even with Past the Skies channel too. I know like one thing for him, like when he started it, he said it like took him like 7 hours to record like his hour-long like episodes at a time, and now like it's a lot quicker. But yeah, I think it's because like seeing upfront like what the investment is in something like that he's like making. So like I feel like to gather a lot of success, because I do see like kind of these like small efforts in various places to make certain content, but it's kind of like what you mentioned. It's not that we have to go viral, but like in order to grow our platform, I'm really trying to think like, oh, like what can we do? And I'll extend this beyond the U.S. because our viewership is beyond the U.S. But like for these English speaking countries too, like so many of our efforts seem pretty scattered in the past or up to now. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's like kind of like some of the things I was thinking about too. Um, yeah, and like kind of this is kind of like on an unrelated note, but I think this is kind of related to it too. Like one of the things that we've been seeing from Korea lately have been like the rallies, and I know Randolph, you actually brought up like maybe you're like discussing our impressions about that too, because that was actually something that I think was shocking for me too. Because at first I didn't really know what to think about the rallies, like when I first heard about them, because my first time hearing about them was like actually in the letters, right? That's what he was, the story letters that he was sending out. So the first time I heard about like these gatherings was like when he was telling people to not do it because these certain people are doing it in the wrong way or something like that. And so I didn't know what to think about the rallies until like it started getting like bigger. And so these are just my very honest like thoughts, right? So even I think when we saw like the Providence News like clip and they were like showing the rallies, at first I was like kind of confused, right? So but like no, now I see like the effects of it, but I want to see what you guys might have thought about the rallies and stuff like that, or what thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I can share. I was very moved by the rallies. And I guess I can kind of tie this into internet ministry as well. I was moved because, up until now, really, in my personal experience, I'd always had this pride in being a part of Providence, being a part of this history, but like there was always that like concern, like, oh, if I'm too open about it, or if if someone sees or hears about it at the wrong time or in the wrong way, then they'll go and look things up and there'll be a bunch of slander and like, oh, and then what, what's going to happen then? It'll be, a lot of, pain and difficulty that I'll experience, and also a lot that will fall onto them being the actor in that. And so there's always this hesitation, to, on how I should share my faith, how I should share my involvement in God's history. But seeing these rallies, I was just like blown away, because you have 50,000 people, right, outside singing the new songs and testifying clearly and being openly, boldly, fearlessly proud to be in this history and to proclaim who something really is, like the kind of life that he has lived. And it takes it from just a conceptual, like, oh, the word is deep, and like, yeah, he, this is the kind of role that he has, the mission he has in God's history. It's more like, in addition to that, as a person, who is he? How well do you know your teacher? How much of yourself can you put out there in order to defend who he is? And it's just seeing that from all those people, like just in their presence there. And I even have friends that are from, obviously from the US, but like that I've known here that were in Korea at that time and were a part of it. And it just made me stop and think, wow, like this is so much bigger than just, oh, are they going to accept the word or not? Oh, are they going to look something up or not? It's so much bigger than that. Like to be a part of this history, and especially at this time, to be able to confidently say, I know this man. I know who he is, what he has done, what he hasn't done. Like that is, like, I feel like I kind of got woken up when I saw that. And I was like, wow, how long am I going to sit here and be afraid that people are going to make claims? When am I actually going to say, do you even know who he is? Do you know what you're saying? When am I going to have that kind of confidence, like I see in these people taking part in these rallies? And that really helped me to kind of shift my perspective in general when it came to looking at my faith, looking at this faith that we have, right? And I think that really can tie well into internet ministry, because it takes a level of boldness, because you're putting out your own life. You're putting out, whether it's stories from your daily life and how you connected to faith, whether it's about your profession, whether it's about experiences that you've had specifically with Sunsim or just in this history. You're putting yourself out there, and there are people who will support and there are people who will criticize, but at what point are you going to be able to say it to yourself and then to other people, no, I chose this, I know what I'm following, and it's right? When are you going to have that level of certainty and that confidence? And that's something that I think just from these rallies you can see and begin to feel, and then adopt as you go out and do the internet ministry that you are intending to do.
That's good. Anything from anyone else?
I mean, the rallies were unprecedented, right? I mean, it's truly a historically defining moment for Providence. I was really, really proud that everybody who participated within Korea had that boldness to go out there and profess their faith openly and say, this is who I follow and this is why. Because there's nothing that we should be ashamed of. Every part of slander is absolute lies, and you can just watch how people in Providence live their life. We are really good people. I mean, it's crazy. I was praying when we were doing this prayer condition together, and like I couldn't hold back like the tears, because I was like, why is it that we get judged this way by the world when all we try to do, the only thing we try to do is express God's love, like the pure love. We don't try to manipulate people. We don't try to make anybody's life bad. It's like all of our intentions, not even just the intentions, like the actions, right? Everything is just good. But we know that, Satan's working hard to oppose us, and Satan works through ignorant people. So we understand that, right? But I think as far as the protest, to see it conducted in such a peaceful manner, really being inspired by the Holy Spirit, I can't imagine who could observe that and not be, at least have a very positive impression about Providence and about Sunset more specifically, because it really was a protest because of the trials, right, and how unjust it is and all that. So yeah, it was really good. But it was funny, Eddie, that you mentioned like, oh, Sunset rebuked like some people like in the story level, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because some people are not really doing some things in accordance with how Sunsim has like directed. But we know the protests, right? What was done was according to what Sunsim had encouraged. So yeah, it does take some discernment, like a lot of context, behind the scenes. So, but yeah, super, super, super moved by it. I wish I had been there. I was there in spirit.
I mean, that would catch headlines too, to see like an African American member like speaking in Korea. That would catch some
Put me on the stage. Put me in the front.
Good. Oh, Mr. Tavernetti, we see his face in the recording now. Do you have any thoughts on anything that we share, or just something that you would want to talk about on either of these things?
Yeah, when I saw the protest, I had inadvertently ran into a website that was this gal had a whole bunch of different things, and one of the things was with our pastor. I was sensing him, so let's just see what these people are doing. I don't get shaken by very much at all, so let's just see a couple things. And it was just a tag team. Like, yeah, this person did that, and there's two people that talked about an evangelist that was just above and beyond, so like very stalkerish. And I was kind of thinking about it, and then read the morning Proverbs later on, and it said, don't be difficult, don't make people scared. And I'm all, that's exactly who he's talking about, if the story is even true. So later on, I started watching the protests, and just how it was organized. So everybody was sit down. They had the signs, they had the wave going, and it was like that's how it's done. There's nothing damaged. They're saying, hey, let's have fair trial, let's have justice. And I was like, wow, that's how it's done. And so I was like, okay, take that, people. How are you gonna convince anybody else that we're doing wrong? Good luck. And then my wife said something a number of years ago that came to mind, and it was we got serious crazy cults here in America, and they don't get nearly the bad press we do. So obviously we're doing something right.
Mm, pretty
Sounds
crazy.
good. That actually brings up something for me. So I was like trying to do some research into this because I avoid this kind of stuff for the most part. But like recently, actually, one of my friends watched a Netflix docu-series too. And he's not in Providence, but he's been over to plenty of times before. So he's seen like the pictures of something named like in our house. So he asked me about it, and I was actually happy that he asked me because he's a friend enough to be honest about it, right, and ask. So I was like, yeah, this is actually a good thing. So I talked to him very honestly and sincerely, but that was like a couple months ago now, while I was still in Hawaii. But so I was trying to like I was also kind of moved by the protests, and I think there was that initial article that was shared, at least here in AP, like detailing like what happened during the things, and then like something names like old comrades, right, from the military, they like spoke at the thing too. And so I was actually really moved seeing that. So I wanted to share some of those things with my friends to be like, I don't even know if he's still interested because when I talked to him about it was like months ago, but I wanted to share some of those things. But I wanted to give some context on like just the background, right? Not just of like our case, but like how different Korea is like from us and stuff like that. And some of the conversations that I've had with people in the past was like, I've heard that in Korea, like in these kind of criminal court cases, you are considered guilty until proven innocent, right? And then so that's something I've heard before, but right now I'm like studying to be a lawyer, so I want to fact check that, right? So I want to know like in detail what exactly it is, because Korea is a democratic country, and like it didn't make sense to me that they would have a system where you're guilty and proven innocent, right? So I was like, okay, so I gotta detail this. And so this is for people online too, right? So it legally speaking, in terms of like the law, it isn't that Korea deems you guilty until proven innocent, but in Korea as well as Japan, the conviction rate, the first time conviction rate of like someone who's being tried for the first time is like extremely high. It's like the highest in the world. It's like it's over 99%. Like Japan is like 99.6%. So like if like a prosecutor is taking a trial, the chance of you getting convicted in that first trial is like 99.6%. Of course, you can try to appeal or whatever, right? But you can contrast that to the US, where I think it's something like 60 something percent, right? And I think Tim's example of the what's it called, the crazy cults we have in America, and that kind of alludes to this too, because I think the priorities are different too. Because I looked up why Korea and Japan has such a high conviction rate, and with the Korean judicial system, it's actually a remnant of the imperial Japanese system when Japan took over Korea too. So they kept the same judicial system even after Japan pulled out. And so in that judicial system, they prioritize conviction and like diminishing crime, right? So even if there are false convictions, they would rather have that and lower crime than, than the chance that some people who are innocent will go off like getting punished. Whereas like I think in the US and in many Western countries, we highly are wary of false convictions. Right? We don't want to put an innocent person into prison, right? So we have so many like safeguards, like not just legally, because as we mentioned, like the legal part of it is the same. Like in Korea's law, it says you are innocent until proven guilty, but we know that like the actualization of like what happens is quite different too. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I was like looking into all of these things too. But yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, like I was really happy to see the article too. But I don't know for Randolph and for Mason, if you guys had any thoughts too.
On the protests?
Yeah, or yeah.
Okay.
Did it give anyone ideas too? But no, feel free to share, Mason. But while you're saying that, did it give anyone any ideas?
Well, when I saw the protests first, initially, I was like, whoa, this is cool. This is awesome. Because it's so bold, and that kind of like matches my character a little bit. Um, I was like, yeah, when are we doing it in America? I'm like, I'm
March
so
on
down.
Washington.
Yeah, we could do it. Three of us. Let's go.
Let's go. I'm so down. People in the community will be like, what's going on? Who is that person that they're talking about?
Yeah,
But
who are
yeah,
these 3-4 guys?
yeah, what are they doing? Talking about something going on in Korea, like it's like way over there or something. Pretty sure it's somewhere in China, something sucks. But yeah, I was just like, dude, this is so awesome. And I liked how it started off as like a couple hundred, 1,000, and then it was like 30,000 people. And it's seemingly growing and growing in regards to participation with members over there. But I find it just like so satisfying that people are standing up and being like, yeah, this is who Sunsonim is. All you other people are stupid. Like it's I don't even think it's rude to say that. Like you're stupid, you're dumb. Because there's a point where like if it was a bunch of children and adolescents that were weeds and slanders, it's understandable because they're not fully developed mentally. But we're talking about a lot of people that are mentally fully developed, and that's specifically after the age of 25. Their brain is completely developed, and they are not providing any evidence whatsoever. I'm sorry, guys, but that's stupid. That's dumb. It's very dumb and stupid. So just to see all of that, and for people to finally be like, you know what, we're tired of getting kicked and pushed around and having people talk about Sunsonim like this. I'm not going to take it anymore. And for me, that's very satisfying, because when I was a younger member, not when I first started uh specifically, but within like I want to say like my first 3 to 5 years in Providence, I was very just like boom, like if the conversation came up, I wouldn't walk away from it. I would be like, yeah, like you want to talk about this? That's totally fine. And I would shut down like a whole room of my family just saying a few things, and then the conversation shifts. And there was times also when I was testifying about things that I had learned in Providence, and things that Sunsonim had taught us specifically. And a family member would be like, that's absolutely insane, like who would teach such a thing? And like I'm this is not like what I said almost verbatim is, you better be careful who you're talking about, because you don't know who you're speaking about. And just hit them very bluntly, very directly like that. Like essentially, don't talk about Sunsonim like that because you have no idea who he is. So to see the protests conducted in such an orderly fashion, but such a very I don't want to say raw, but like a very passionate and thoughtful manner, very Shimjonic, was very appealing. And I was just like, dude, I want to be there right now. I want to participate, because it's so bold, and it's so in opposition to the slanders and all the naysayers, when honestly they have no idea who Sunsonim is. That, and they have no evidence to back up all the accusations that have been put out against him. And we have seen Sunsonim, some of us personally, we have been to Wilmington, we've seen him, we've stayed there for a duration of time, and saw how he lived his life on a daily basis. And to hear the slander and things that people say about him, honestly, it's very frustrating, and sometimes very like, angering. It's like, how could people say things like that when they've never even looked at the way he's lived his life, and they're just, it's basically hearsay. Oh, I heard this from this one other thing, and oh, I heard he was convicted before, and oh, he's doing it again. I'm just like, oh my gosh, just get out of here with your childishness. Go. Choo-choo.
Run the
Back
ball.
back to your sandbox, you. So yeah, it was just awesome to see in short.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Anything for Minister Randolph? Because you're actually the one to bring up this topic. So.
Yeah, when I first I mean, for me it was really moving also too, because finally it's about time, because we've been canceled so many times. Ever since I came to Providence, it's like, oh, it's been canceled. So because I think for us, like in the past, where like if there's like persecution, like we've been like just hiding. We don't really like try to say like, oh, we're Providence. And I think like going through this kind of situations, like, oh, just pray on your own, like really repent and just let God handle everything. But I think like seeing, Korea doing it like so boldly, I was like, wow. I was like, I've never, seen this before. And for me, like, it's such a very proud moment, like being here in this history, because I know like in Korea, like cancel culture is like worse than America. Yeah, I was like, so I'm like, but seeing those members, and I'm like, wow, they really want to fight, for censorship and for this history. So for me, uh, like I think that's why the internet ministry, I think, it's such a perfect timing also at the same time, because like all of these are happening this rally. So if we testify through internet, it's like it goes really viral. Like Providence is this big. We're really proud. We're not like hiding things anymore. And that's what Cameron said. We're people who just want to share God's love. That's it. You just share like the lesson, and then the life that Sensitive has lived. For God. So I think, because actually, I'm going to a rally like next week, because I work in a hotel industry, so we have like a really strong union. So I'm like learning a lot of things about union. So if someone is being like bullied, like union is like there, like to support you. So we're actually going to like a rally to support another hotel. So I think that's like the first rally that I have. So if we ever have a rally in America, or like go to Washington, yeah.
So that is a funny thing. I think America is like one of the only places where you could have a rally about anything and gain supporters like randomly, right? I bet if people started having a rally somewhere, like you would find some interest. And like people, like some random weirdos will be interested, right? And they'll like support you even though they have no idea what's going on. Oh yeah. Tim's pointing at each of us. Yeah, you'll find 5 weirdos to support your case. Yeah, no, but I think that's kind of in line with what was shared in the Friday night gathering too. Like one of the things we actually read a short transcript for those listening to this at home. We read a short transcript from the Friday prayer night meeting that we had. One of the things that I think something you said was like that if they don't object, consider them as members of the church, right? And I think honestly, for me, this is quite a hopeful thing, because I think in even in America, and I'm guessing quite a few Western nations too, there are times we might have evangelized or tried to evangelize our family members or our friends, and it didn't like pan out to the level of like they're actually coming to service and everything like that. But a lot of times they have like favorable opinions of Providence and about who we are and about the word, right? But they just don't come out to the church and like cross that final threshold. But it was quite heartwarming to hear that, because like even those kind of efforts that we take, even if it doesn't pan out to like have like generating someone with a passing date and like someone who's going to come out to church and do all these things, like we can still consider them like members, right? They're on our side and stuff like that too. And I know I don't know if you guys have all seen, like there's that Korean like YouTuber, right, who I guess some members reach out to like kind of like share some of these things too. So in a way, like for me, when I saw that, it was like kind of heartwarming and kind of like not sad, but kind of like, oh, like I wish we could do more too. Because for context, it's like I think there's a Korean YouTuber who has about like 200,000 subscribers or something, and then like he does this thing where he kind of like looks at certain things that are like, I guess, like portrayed on the media and stuff, and kind of like dismantle some things that like don't really make sense. So some of our members approached him with like the audio files that have been like edited. And I think he's like gone to Wonmyeongdong now. I think he went to the protest too, right? So it's kind of cool. But even one of the things that the members shared while speaking to that guy on the phone, which was shared in one of his videos, was like that they felt so anguished because there's like nowhere that we can take this to, right? The judicial system is kind of like stacked against us, and like the broadcasting stations are the ones that are causing the mess, so they're not going to listen to our case. And even if they do, and like in the past, even if they do, it's always like retroactive and it doesn't do anything, right? And so we've seen that case before, like slander cases, not even like to do with like minister or like with us, but even in the world, when something gets like told on the media, even if it's false, like all they have to do is say sorry afterwards, but then the damage is already done. Right? So it never helps our case, right? So like I felt the anguish of the members, and I'm sure we have, and I think we mentioned some of it too. But yeah, like just thinking about it, I was like, wow, like I hope that we can do more too, and that especially the English speaking countries, that we can do more. We can like do like even bigger things, because like even with that YouTuber guy, like first things first, of course, like we are so thankful to someone like that, and for God even using someone like that too. But like from what I've seen, it's harder to grow an audience in Korean, because you know Korea is just so much smaller, right? And the people who speak Korean are like way fewer than in like those who speak English. And so we already have an advantage in that sort of sense. So I was like, wow, like it would be really great if we can leverage and take a hold of this and like use our various platforms, kind of like what Mr. Cameron and everyone mentioned. And so this is actually part of the letter that something sent to her, that each of us need our own channels too. But then we also need this cross collaboration to make it bigger, right? And I think he gave the Sunday message right after that Friday message that for big work you need a lot of people. And so I hope that we can keep having these kind of conversations. It's already been like actually over an hour for us since we started this recording. Yeah, so yeah, crazy, right? It kind of feels like it went by really quickly. But I hope everyone took a lot away from this, and I hope this starts the conversation, because this is what we're doing. Like, and so even along with this, like I mentioned, I wanted to talk to Pastor Sky about his future plans for his channels and his ministry, internet ministry efforts, and what he has in mind. And I want to start this conversation for all the individuals at home, and then for each of the countries that are listening to this too. For AP2, we want to ask headquarters, hey, like, you know, what does headquarters have in mind for this, right? What do the church leaders have in mind? Like, what can we do, right? What can we do together, and what can we do as individuals too? So with this, yeah. So thank you everyone for listening to another segment of the Man Cave. But before we close, does anyone have like something that they want to share? Any last words?
Just one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
When Sunsonim was saying like in the message about the internet ministry, how if there's people that are not against us, but they're actually, you know, favorable to us, then consider them as members. It actually reminds me of a scripture with Jesus and the disciples. And the disciples were complaining to Jesus, or maybe not complaining, but brought it to his attention, like, oh, these other people, they're casting out demons in your name. Should we tell them to stop? And Jesus is like, no, like if they're casting out demons in, you know, the name of the person that God has sent, then don't tell them to stop, because they're not, you know, if they were against us, they wouldn't do such a thing. But since they are for us and they agree with us, they are doing it in my name. So don't tell them to stop, but, you know, let them be, let them do the whatever it is that they're doing. And that kind of reminds me of how Sunset brought that up.
Nice parallel.
That's it.
Thank you. I think that's a good note. Anyone? Anything else from anyone? Okay. So if not, then with that, we'll close this episode of the Man Cave. I hope that everyone took a lot away from today's episode 2, and that you can get a different kind of flavor on the days that Pastor Sky is here and the days that he's not. But with this, okay, we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.